a horrific bus crash involving the Humboldt Broncos.
A junior A hockey team from Saskatchewan.
16 killed and more than a dozen injured.
T-boned by a transport truck going over 100 kilometers per hour.
Traveling to a highly anticipated playoff.
A hockey nation coming together.
Putting their hockey sticks out
For hashtag Humboldt Strong.
I looked around and I had no clue where I was. And they were like, no, like, you're in a bus crash. There's 13 survivors. And I was one of the survivors.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you for clicking on this video, but really quickly I wanted to introduce my first guest, Kaleb Dahlgren. Now, he's not only a Humboldt Broncos bus crash survivor and amazing hockey player, but he's also a #1 Canadian best-selling author. He's an amazing speaker. He's also a mentor, community leader, and more recently, a sports chiropractor. But honestly, just an all-around amazing, compassionate guy. So without further ado, let's get into it. You learned skating through figure skating, and I think you just had this inherent ability to excel on the ice. Did you know that?
I didn't know at the time that was good. My parents, like, I was very humble. My parents made sure I was humble, and they were like, well, there's always something better than you. There's always, like, not in the sense of that negative aspect, but like, make sure to just know that you're not the best. You're not the best in this world. Like, you need to keep on pushing yourself and you keep on getting better, and that will ultimately lead to where you want to go.
Yeah, you talked about in the book how you were practicing nonstop in your basement.
Yeah.
In this unfinished basement. So
Yeah.
what was that like? Because I think most basements aren't huge and they don't really promote a hockey environment. So how are you practicing your shots and skating and stuff?
Yeah,
down there?
exactly. So we both are places. So I was in Moose Jaw until I was 6, and then Saskatoon, Saskatchewan after that until I was about 16. And so when I was in Moose Jaw, we had unfinished concrete basement. And so I would rollerblade around in the basement with tunes blaring, wearing my gear, shooting pucks. We had like a little disco ball, strobe light. And then when I moved to Saskatoon, we actually found another place with a concrete basement. And so like the floor was concrete, the walls were concrete. The only thing that would get broken was the windows. And of course I broke some of the windows, but hit puck off the crossbar and then onto the window. But my dad and mom were very fortunate to just let me roam around and do my thing. And so I'd rollerblade downstairs. I'd get home from school, rollerblade from downstairs, shoot some pucks. And then they'd call me up for supper. I'd keep my rollerblades on, wheel myself up the stairs to go up for supper, eat with them, hang out, and then come back down with my rollerblades on, wheel around the basement. And that was like my passion. Loved it. Played music, had my little made up teams I'd play against. I'd wear a jersey every night with the team that I was with. I absolutely lived, breathed, and loved hockey.
Was your dad a hockey player?
My dad was a hockey player, and my mom also like knew the sport but wasn't as intertwined. She was more on the softball side. She was an elite softball player.
Why did you start out doing figure skating before hockey? Was that a choice? What was with that?
So figure skating before hockey, it was the only thing that I could really do at my age. So very first thing my parents did was get me on rollerblades. Like 1.5, 2 on rollerblades.
You were rollerblading when everybody else was walking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally, yeah. And then they were like, okay, well, this is the only thing available. We're going to get you into figure skating to get me on the ice more. So I did that. And there was a couple of us guys in there. One of them was actually Graham Fish, and he actually does speed skating for Team Canada, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, we were doing our thing out there. And then after I finally was able to play hockey in a little bit of a minor league, like Timbits kind of thing. And that was awesome. And that was like when I fell in love with it. But the figure skating was just to help build my skill on ice. And my parents were like, if you need to be a good hockey player, you need to be able to skate. So that's why they put me into figure skating.
Yeah. What was your, did you have a favorite position?
I did. So I actually played, fun fact, this is kind of random, I played AAA hockey in every position. So I played forward, center, like forward, left wing, right wing, center. I also played defense, and I also played goalie, AAA summer hockey as a kid. So it was really cool, kind of random, but my favorite position out of them all was forward. I stuck with that afterwards throughout the rest of my career when I was about 12 onwards.
That's pretty impressive because each position has their own strategy and things that they need to do, like on the ice, like tactically, when you're either defending or attacking, or obviously as a goalie, like saving, that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
you're a man of many talents.
I didn't know that. I really didn't. It was kind of a bit random, to be honest. Like, person got injured in practice, went in net, and then I started saving some pucks. People were like, "Oh, you're actually okay." Then I stuck with it for a little bit longer, and ended up.
You're actually okay.
Yeah. Well, like, because as a player, like, you think like normally goal scorer and then like you go to goalie, it's like, what the heck? Doesn't really make sense. So
What was your first hockey jersey number?
first hockey jersey number was 16. And so it was my dad's previous number, and he didn't really put it on me. I actually picked it because I liked how it looked. I liked the 1 and the 6, and just like how the jersey looked clean and crisp. And so it was my very first jersey number, and it was actually my last ever jersey number. So I thought that was pretty cool too.
So tell me about, you have type 1 diabetes. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that journey and how that has affected you personally.
So for me, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 4. And at the time, I really didn't know what was going on. I was at my babysitter's house. I was sitting on a couch, and I was really, really thirsty. I kept going bathroom back, drinking more fluids, bathroom back. So by the time lunch rolled around, I had about 12 bathroom breaks. And my babysitter was like, there's something wrong with Kaleb. So she called my dad. My dad came, picked me up, took me home, and he's like, I think you're constipated. Go sit on the toilet, let it out, kind of thing. So I was like, all right. Went on the toilet. About 5 minutes later, here's the water running in the bathroom, thinking I'm washing my hands. And he kept hearing it running some more. And then about 2 minutes later, he comes in the bathroom because the water's still running, peeks his head in, and there I was with my toothbrush, lapping water in my mouth, trying to get more water into my mouth with my toothbrush. And so he thought, what is going on? So he took me from the bathroom. He's like, we're going to go to the hospital now. Drove me to the hospital, got into Emerge, went right through Emerge. Doctors took me in a room. I got poked, prodded, and all that fun stuff in the hospital. And then within about 10, 20 minutes, they called my dad in, and my mom was working at the time. And they looked at him and said, your son's type 1 diabetic and will be insulin dependent for the rest of his life. And that was like, boom, first kind of crossroad in my life. At the age of 4, I didn't really know. And then I didn't like the hospital as a 4-year-old.
No one does.
Who likes it? Yeah. And so when I was there, I was like, I want to get out of this doctor's house. I'm going to throw this chair through the window so I can get sent home. And it was just anger and rage. And so then I finally was able to get sent home a couple of days later, and realized that I thought it was home free, like no more needles, until 3 hours later, you need another needle. I was like, what is going on? So that took about 3 months for me to finally kind of get the grasp of knowing that I needed needles to survive. And if I didn't have a needle, I would die. And that was plain and simple, kind of my life.
Some fun Canadian facts. Frederick Banting and Charles Best discovered insulin in 1921, and they're Canadians.
Yeah. Super, super cool. Yeah. They honestly, that saves my life. Like if there is no insulin, I die.
Yeah.
And it's the reality of the condition. And thankfully they did create insulin, and thankfully I'm here because of that.
How does diabetes affect young athletes as a whole?
So for my experience with diabetes at a young age and sport in general, it was a bit challenging because I've had a lot of, at the time there's like Bobby Clark was in the NHL prior to me getting the diagnosis, and he was type 1 diabetic. And then people think of like, oh, Max Domi is like another hockey guy with diabetes, but he's only 2 years older than me. So we kind of grew up at the same point where there really wasn't that influential person out there. And I think back to, and there was coaches that'd be like, hey, like you shouldn't be playing competitive hockey. There was doctors being like, you shouldn't play competitive hockey. Like, you should just relax, kind of like take it back. You can go and enjoy yourself, but not like too intense. So there was definitely different barriers into that place. And even like coaches not knowing how to handle me if I did have a low glucose, or if I was going to be a little bit of a distraction to the team. Like those kind of questions would come up. So you had to educate and advocate for yourself at that time. And so that's something that I really felt was needed in the community. And even like in a grand scale, I've been able to really, I know a lot of people have been able to really change the diabetes diagnosis to, instead of letting it manage them, manage the diabetes and not let it manage you. And that was kind of the motto that I grew up with, my parents instilled in me. And so now looking at the whole landscape, today is a lot better. It's a lot better for people with diabetes, but there still is a stigma sometimes. I have a program for type 1 diabetic children, and then I'm also ambassador with lots of different nonprofits and that kind of thing. And I find that an area that is still lacking is still the awareness and the knowledge. I think people are more aware, it's more the knowledge of it now. It's like, okay, well, you're a diabetic, but like, how does that affect you? Like, what exactly goes on? And so I think it's nice now there's more conversations being around that, and athletes are still able now to pursue their passions. And they have a lot more people out there who are athletes now that have type 1 diabetes that are making an impact. And I think that's beautiful to see, and just gives more representation to that population.
Yeah, and there's amazing companies with brand new tech that make monitoring glucose so easy.
100%.
Yeah.
Tech has saved so many people in that aspect with diabetes in particular. And like now everything, you can just look at your phone and see what your blood glucose was. Before, my parents would have to wake me up in the middle of the night, poke my finger, make me bleed, put it on a test strip, and then have the test strip tell them where I was at that current time. That didn't say if I was going to go up or if I was going to go down. It was just at that current second. So I think now today there's technology that'll say, hey, you're trending upwards or you're trending downwards, or you have this much insulin in your cartridge, where before it was just like, you look in the fridge and if you have that much insulin left, you're good. So it's like, it's way different now, and I'm so grateful for the technology. And I think that makes life a lot easier for us to pursue our passions and our dreams too.
Amazing. What is diabetes?
So diabetes, there's different types. There's quite a few out there, but the main ones are type 1 and type 2. So type 1 means that, I'll give it to like the most concrete, basic, third grade level. So type 1 is where your pancreas doesn't produce any insulin. So what that means is if you have a chocolate bar and you don't have diabetes, you're fine. Your blood sugar will go up a little bit, but your body will kick in and insulin will come from your pancreas and bring down your blood glucose level. But if I have a chocolate bar, my blood sugar goes up and my pancreas doesn't kick in because it doesn't produce any insulin. And so I just keep going up with my blood sugar, which then can lead to complications over time. And so with type 2 diabetes, their pancreas produces insulin, but their body is resistant, meaning that they have a chocolate bar, their pancreas is like, okay, I'm going to give myself some insulin, but then the body is not as resistant, so it doesn't give full amount, so it kind of goes up, and that's the difference. Type 1 is something that's genetically given to you, where type 2 is more later in life with the bad lifestyle habits, bad diet, not exercising as much.
So April 6th, 2018, you and the Humboldt Broncos were on the way to play the best junior hockey games of your life against Nipawin to fight your way out of the elimination. And Christina, Coach Darcy's wife, made the whole team some pregame pasta.
Yeah.
You know, it was around 2:50. You deviated from the normal bus route. Didn't think it was too crazy, but you were just kind of in the game and in the mindset. So in your book, it says, as we continued to make our way north, we were all in various states of pregame preparation. Some of us sat quietly, others had their headphones on, and were listening to some music. A card game involving some of the guys was finishing up in the front row, and we were about 30 minutes to the arena by then. It was the most important game, and potentially the last of my junior hockey career. I sat in my seat and turned on one of my go-to playlists to get ready. This was going to be the best game I would ever play in my life. The best game we would ever play in our lives. A few of the other guys were standing in the aisle, putting on their suits. There was banter and laughter. I turned up the volume. Then everything went black. So for those who don't know what happened that day, and walk me through, what were you feeling? What were you thinking?
What had happened was our bus was going through an intersection, and we had the right of way, and a semi-truck driver was driving through as well, and they blew a stop sign, and our bus T-boned the semi-truck trailer. I don't remember once it went black. So this is all kind of hearsay, putting the pieces together, the little puzzle pieces, as I like to say. At that collision point, what I think happened was I flew forward around 7 rows and hit my head and getting a seat 5C imprinted to the right side of my eye. And so after that, according to my first responder, I was walking around on the scene helping people. And then my first responder came up to me. He's like, hey, what's wrong with you? And I said, I'm okay. He's like, no, like you're bleeding. I want you to stop here. And he's like, what's your name? I said, my name's Kaleb. And then he's like, okay. What's hurting? I said, my neck and my back. And he's like, all right, you need to stop. We're going to get you on a stretcher. And got rushed to Nipawin Hospital. And then while I was at the Nipawin Hospital, I was screaming, I was yelling, I was really, really vulgar. And then they air ambulanced me from Nipawin Hospital to Saskatoon Hospital. And I woke up after 5 days later. So I was in like a state of called post-traumatic amnesia. So 5 days later after the crash had happened, I woke up, and that was when I looked around and I had no clue where I was. Then all kind of clicked in my head. I was like, okay, well, we must have played our game. I must have got hit from behind. I must have got a concussion, and here I am in a hospital because I don't remember anything. So makes sense. And then I looked around and my parents were there, and then I asked them, did we win our game? They looked at me confused, like, what do you mean, did you win your game? It's like, did we win our game? And they were like, Caleb, there was no game. We've already told you. I said, told me what? And then they said, well, we told you you're in an accident. Yeah, I'm sure I probably broke my neck, got hit from behind. And they were like, no, like, you're in a bus crash. And that was when I was like, what do you mean a bus crash? And then they told me what happened. 16 passed away when Dana passed away. There's 13 survivors, and I was one of the survivors. And I couldn't believe them at all. So I've like passing my phone, like, give me my phone. So they gave me a phone, which wasn't my phone at the time. It was some new phone. So then I opened it up and didn't believe them. So I hit Twitter, and I saw hashtag prayers for Humboldt, hashtag Humboldt strong. And that was when I first kind of came to the reality of what had just happened, which was 5 days after the crash had happened. Injuries I suffered was a fractured skull, a punch wound to my skull, a scalp degloving, 5 broken vertebrae in my neck, 4 in my back, muscle, nerve, ligament damage, blood clots, and then a severe traumatic brain injury where I shouldn't be able to walk, talk, or remember my name based on the imaging. So very, very fortunate to be where I'm at today. The worst part wasn't really the injuries, though. To be honest, I take those. It was losing the 16 people they consider to be family.
In the book, going back to the scene, you talk about, and I'm assuming that you kind of collected this from a variety of other people who have kind of pieced together the situation or the memories. You're on your hands and knees trying to help your other teammates, and you take off your jacket and you put it over somebody. And when the paramedic comes to you, you have a piece of shrapnel in your head, and you are more concerned about your teammates. And the paramedics take you into the ambulance, and then you say, I'm Caleb, I'm a type 1 diabetic, please help my teammates. Mm-hmm. And the paramedic says, I'm never going to forget you. Mm-hmm. Because you were more concerned about your teammates than you were of yourself.
Yeah.
And that, I think, speaks volumes when you were more or less unconscious trying to help other people. And everybody was like, let's get this person all squared away before we can help the others. And you're like, just help the others.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. And I don't remember that. And that's the thing, is like the story was told to me by my first responder. On the team, I was jokingly called like the team mom because I cared about everybody so much. And I think like it kind of reigns true in all my life aspects. Like I really do care about the people that are in my life. And at the time too, you don't really know how you're going to respond in those situations. And there's no right or wrong way. Like everybody responds to those situations in every way possible. And so,
yeah. So when you started coming back to life and piecing things together, how was the support from the community? Canada is a very strong hockey nation. Mm-hmm. So you had people in the community, people on other hockey teams, parents, friends, colleagues, everybody supporting this recovery and the awareness of what happened. So how did that feel?
There's a way to describe it, and the only really way is empowerment and uplifting. When you go through something tragic or challenging, having support there makes a huge difference. And I am so grateful for anybody listening to this. Thank you for your support. If you put a stick out, wore a jersey, donated, sent a letter, sent a message, even had us in our thoughts or prayers, thank you. Like truly thank you, because I don't think you really realize how much that support means until you go through something like that. But it wasn't just Saskatchewan. It wasn't just Canada. It was the entire world. The whole world came together in a certain aspect or certain ways. Different countries, like it was unbelievable, like truly unbelievable. And I'm so grateful for that. But at the same time, it makes me think and like take a step back. And like when I was in that situation, I was very humbled and honored. But there was an elderly lady beside me in my room. She had one visitor in her 5 days that we're in the same room together in the hospital. And that broke my heart because we had a lineup out of our room of visitors wanting to come. And it just goes to show that like there's people going through their own tragedies or their own things in their life with very little support. So now more than ever, when people are going through a tough time, I try to check in on them. I try to be there for them because of that experience in particular. I've had many prior to as well, but that experience in particular really showcased how much people need support in their tragedies or their tough parts of their life.
What surprised you most about yourself?
I think just acceptance was such a big piece. I was able to accept it quite fast. And I think that it wasn't in a denial phase. It wasn't like I went through the grief cycle. And I did. I went through it all. But it was my ability to accept it, be like, okay, how am I going to turn this something negative to something positive? And what am I going to do to help other people throughout this? And then the forgiveness piece was also very fast too. And then moving forward, I was like, okay, how am I going to live my life to the fullest? Not just for myself, but for those who aren't here. I had this long text message ready to send to my best friend. I was going to hit send. And then I realized he wasn't there. He was sitting behind me on the bus and he passed away. He was my roommate. If I passed away, how would I want them to live their life? Well, I want them to pursue their passions, their dreams, their goals, to make the most of life. So for me, having that mindset and that awareness that fast, that awareness, that forgiveness, that acceptance, and then wanting to move forward to make the community and other people around me better is what surprised me, I'd say, in that process. Then also what surprised me as well was when the doctors are telling you if you go to school, you're going to fail, go down a dark episode. And I think there's two options every time. So we can dive into that a bit more. But that would be where resilience mindset really came into play.
I think a lot of people after an accident stay in the why me kind of mindset and the resentful mindset. So the fact that you were able to switch it on a dime is intense. It's very, very admirable as a character trait.
It was. And I think the big thing that played into that was my life experiences prior to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the crash was just one of the experiences I've had. I've had many other experiences prior to the crash where I've had to be able to adapt and be like, okay, well, this is my life circumstances right now. I either make the most of it or I let it make the most of me. And I was able to try to make the most of it. Even diabetes was like a big piece in that puzzle too. Living with diabetes, which is 24/7, 365. Like you said, a lot of people stay in that why me, why this, why that. And the moment you can shift to like, what is this teaching me? What is this doing to better me? How am I going to make the most of this situation to help other people? What can I do in my power to control the things I can control and focus on those rather than focus on things I can't control? Like, I couldn't control the fact that the semi-truck driver went through a stop sign. I couldn't control the fact of who was here, who wasn't here. I couldn't control injuries. I couldn't control the public perception. I couldn't control anything other than myself. And how was I going to respond to it? Where were my values, my beliefs, my morals, my work ethic, my integrity, character? How was I going to respond to that situation?
Talk to me about how you had a personal trainer and mentor, Chad, who helped with that belief system.
Mm-hmm. Post the crash, I think back of like who were some of the people in my life that really helped me get to where I was. And one of those people was my personal trainer, Chad. He was a man who like pushed me to my limits as a person, physically, mentally, and emotionally, to make me the strongest I can be. So he lived with a brain tumor that I wasn't really aware of until he was on his deathbed. And he kind of like pulled me to the side. We were in the gym and it was like not even probably a month before he passed. We were in the gym. I was working out with him. And he pulled me aside. And prior to, he'd talk about life with me and about mindset, about resilience. How did that, when you're working out and you feel that pain is making you stronger, and that it's only going to make those muscles bigger, which is going to make you stronger. And you need to work at it every day to get a little bit better. And those were like some of the traits that he instilled. And also that when you get knocked down, you have two options. You can either stay down or you get back up and go again. And so those were like really ingrained in me at a young age. And then other aspects about him was like, we would do these insane hard workouts. And then after, he'd be like, you feel that burn? And I'd be like, yeah. He's like, love that burn. And so like, it trains your mind to think differently. And that was what I loved about him. And so yeah, it was our last workout. And he's like, but I'm not doing too well. I have brain tumor and it's quite at a serious stage now. And I'm going to take my time away from the gym. And that was when it all kind of hit me. It was like, he was the life of the party. He was always happy, go friendly, like bringing people in and making them feel special. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And so he was one that really shifted my mindset. And I had great coaches who really helped as well. Had a mental performance coach. I also had teachers. I had friends and their parents. I had my parents. I really tried to surround myself with people that would uplift me. I think that was some of the big pieces that really helped in that process.
Yeah, that's huge. Your journey is a unique path, right? From survivor to author and community leader, and now chiropractic student. So let's run through those. When was your first public speaking engagement?
First speaking engagement was in 2014, and it was 2015, and it was a Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation walk.
Nice.
I shared my story for the first time there, and that was my first kind of experience.
Did you find it came naturally because you were so passionate about what you were talking about?
I was very nervous. I wasn't also really that articulate with my words. I had natural ability, but I wasn't talented.
How are you now, though?
I feel like I'm okay now.
Yeah.
Now I'm not too nervous.
Yeah.
I'll go in front of thousands of people and like go do my thing, or millions even, and like it doesn't faze me anymore. Because at the end of the day, if you make mistakes, it's pretty much just you that knows, not the other people. And then also it's like, it's human. If you make a mistake, own up to it, laugh at it, and carry on.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it real. That's what makes the audience like you even more. Is like, they just made a mistake, but like they rocked it, and now they're rocking it again. Like, that's sweet.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reality, is like, if we try to be so perfect, so like everything needs to be in line, but at the same time, like having that fluidity gives the audience the ability to relate to you even more. Yeah.
Chiropractics.
Yep.
Your parents are both nurses. Mm-hmm. Did they have an effect on you wanting to pursue that, or was this a post-crash situation, or was it just a general, I would like to help out in this way?
So there's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle, so I'm going to keep it short and brief with this one.
Sure.
I had major back pain as a 12-year-old, and nothing worked other than chiro. I had many supports throughout my hockey career, and I found that chiro was probably the best thing that would help me. And then on top of that, too, I shadowed all different professions: dentistry, MD, GP, elementary school teacher, like all those, firefighting, police. Number one was chiro. I loved it because it wasn't invasive. It wasn't given medication prescription. I was helping people move better, and I found that was one of the best things for me as a hockey player. Then post-crash, it was still like the number one modality that I liked the most, that helped me the most, that I thought. Because of my fractures, they had to heal. But after my fractures healed, I needed to be able to move better. And that was where I found that the spinal adjustment really helped me move better. And moving on, I had some major supports and mentors in my life who kind of showed me the ropes of what it could look like, especially being a sports specialist, chiro, and how I could work with Olympic athletes, NHL athletes, and just help athletes in general move better, or people who want to be athletes move better, live a healthier life. And that was like game on.
Okay, so community involvement.
Mm-hmm.
You've done a lot of things, not necessarily because you had to, but because you wanted to. You wanted to help community. You wanted to help people.
Yep.
So talk to me about the Humboldt Special Olympic floor hockey team and your involvement with them, and then the taxi crew.
When I first went to Humboldt, I wanted to be involved in the community. That was like a big thing I wanted to do, is get involved. And so every year they'd have a certain amount of players would go out and do Special Olympics, floor hockey. And so I was one of the ones who really wanted to do that. But we actually started with the taxi crew before it even happened, before it went to Special Olympics. I was driving home from the hockey game. I saw Dallas on the side of the road walking his bike. And it was one of our super fans. And I knew that he was a super fan. And so I kind of pulled over to the side of the road. I was like, hey, like, what's going on? And he was like, well, my bike's not working. I'm walking it home. I was like, well, where do you live? And he's like, oh, like quite a few blocks down the road, like probably 2K. And I was like, well, why don't you just throw your bike in the back of my vehicle and I'll take you home? He's like, really? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. As I'm taking him home, I'm like, oh, like, why'd you bike to our game? And he was like, well, like, I like to get there early and I like to leave late. Don't you have like a bus or something like that? He's like, yeah, we have a support bus, but the bus gets there about 2 minutes late. So I miss the opening draw and leaves about 5 minutes early. We're like, why don't I take you to the game? And he was like, really? Yeah, like, if you're cool with me picking you up like an hour, like 2.5 hours before the game, staying an hour after, like, I'll take you. And he was like, sure. I was like, okay. Wasn't expecting him to say yeah, but like I put an offer out there. And he was like, can I bring friends? It's like, if there's enough seatbelts in the vehicle, you can bring your friends. That's how the taxi crew formed. So it was Dallas, Shane, Bernard, and Morris. And so I pick them up. at our home games. I'd call them, pick them up at 4:45. They would all be standing on the corner on the sidewalk in a line, ready for me to pick them up. And then I would take them to the arena. We'd go through who were playing, who their top players were, what their last game was, how did they do. And then we'd play music for like the last 2 minutes of our ride.
Amazing.
And then after that, after the game, if we won, it was great. Everybody loved each other. We'd go through Tim's drive-thru, get little Timbits. And then if we lost, though, it was like, you suck, Kaleb. You're horrible. What's wrong with you? And so it was like one or the other. And I loved it. But all of them actually were a part of the Special Olympics floor hockey team. So when I first met Dallas, the next week we were at Special Olympics floor hockey. And that was kind of when I first met the whole crew. And so that was when I got involved. And so every Monday we would go and play Special O. And we would go out there every Monday. And that was like super special. And it was the highlight of my week for sure. One of the major highlights was that.
Do you have any specific memories or stories that you're able to share about being in the taxi?
Oh, yeah. So the taxi crew really stemmed from them saying it's Kaleb's taxi and that I'm the one that's chauffeuring them around at Humboldt.
Nice.
So that was like how it kind of started. One story was hilarious. So we ended up losing the game and I missed. So I had a goal and assist. We lost 4-3. So after the game, I came out of the tunnel and they were there waiting for me, the taxi crew. Get in the vehicle and they all have like their heads hunked down and like they're sad because we lost. Shane's in the back seat. He's like, Kaleb, what the F was that? I was like, Shane, why are you swearing at me right now? He's like, that was a horrible game. You could have scored. You missed a wide open net. And you, of course, like, I don't care you got a goal and assist. You could have scored another one and one at least took us to overtime. Like, what was wrong with that? I was like, Shane, I don't need this right now. Like, and he's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. You need to be better. You need to be better. And so I was like, you know what? You're right. I do need to be better. So all the other guys were in there too, quiet, kind of like this somber tone. And then Shane's like, someone needed to say it. So that was one of the funny stories. But we'll stay with that one. That's a funny one.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Dahlgren diabetes. So diabetes is kind of a portmanteau of diabetes and beauties.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, in the Canada hockey community, when you say like somebody's a beauty, it means they're an absolute weapon on the ice. The dirty dangles, the snipes, the nice flow. So yeah, I definitely see like where those came from, but tell me about the inception of it.
Yeah. So back in 2014, I was in North Battleford and I was playing AAA hockey there. And I met another person, Josh is his name, and he actually just got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so I was at that time already living with it and treating it on my own. And he just got diagnosed. So he was asking me lots of questions. He's like, hey, I heard you have type 1 diabetes. Can you fill me in on how it works? So I kind of like gave him the lowdown. I helped him out, gave him some tips and tricks, supported him, was there throughout the process. And we were like the same age. He was my classmate and one of my good buddies and still is one of my good buddies today. And so after that, we started chatting. He's like, dude, you should do this for other people. Like, why have you not done anything for other people like this? And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I should do this. So I talked to my parents and we were going to do it. By the time my dad was severely ill and was in and out of the hospital, and I didn't think it was the right time as well. I wanted to succeed academically. And so fast forward to 2017, I was in Notre Dame playing junior A hockey there with the Hounds and was an assistant captain of our team, potentially going to be named captain of the team next year. And I knew that this was burning inside of me. And I needed to create this dream program. So I ended up asking for a trade to be traded to a bigger center. And so this program, Dahlgren's Diabetes, the idea was for other people with diabetes, type 1 diabetes, to feel beautiful for their difference and to feel special. And the beauty was a hockey term, like you said, where it came from. But dia was diabetes, and diabetes, I was trying to make diabetes beautiful, trying to make them a beauty. So diabetes came into this scheme. And so in Humboldt, what would happen was a person with type 1 diabetes would come to the game. They would get a pregame meal at Johnny's Bistro in Humboldt. Then they get complimentary tickets for them and their family to the game, participate in a ceremony of puck face-off with me and the captain of the other team. And they would drop the puck and the crowd would go wild, cheer them on, make them feel beautiful. They'd get to watch the game. Then after, I'd meet with them upstairs, answer questions like, what do you do on a first date with diabetes? How do you talk to coaches? How do you handle sports and diabetes? What do you do with sleepovers? What do you do with camping? All these questions I had that I didn't have answers to as a child. For me, the whole reasoning as to why was because I know what it was like to be a child living with diabetes. And I knew what it was like to get called fat on the playground, to get bullied, saying I'm a druggie, to have people look at you differently, to be not picked for teams because of your diabetes. I know what it's like. So being able to help the next generation either not have to go through that, or when they go through that, be that support for them, was something that I really wanted to do. But even like the basic things, such as like waking up and you're at your friend's place and sleep over and you're nervous because you have a low glucose level. You don't want to wake up everybody, but you need to have a snack. Like even those little small detailed things are something that I really was passionate about and wanted to help other people who are going through those too. And you think that you're helping them, but they helped me way more than I could ever help them. And it's so fulfilling being able to see what they're doing in this world. Like one is writing a book, one is writing another book, another one has created their own program. A couple have already gone to the government of Canada and advocated for change. Wow. Some are national ambassadors, some are provincial ambassadors, some are just trying to get by. And that's the beautiful thing about it. They don't need to be doing anything special. I want them to be who they are. Like one's doing bull riding. Like that's so cool. Like there's just so many, and I could brag about them forever. And it's been such an amazing experience. And now I brought that to York University when I went to York. And then now more today, it's more like a mentorship aspect, really helping them with academics, scholarships. Some are talking to universities, some got committed already at universities. And so like helping with school at university now and like relationship stuff. So like very, very cool to be in that aspect as well and still help them along their sport career too. But yeah, it's pretty special.
That's amazing.
Just out here today, watch my diabetes practice. I'm looking forward to it. So nice to get back into the arena. I have 16 diabetes right now, and I'm keeping it at 16 because I treat them like my siblings or like family members. So I'm heavily involved in lots of different aspects, and I don't want to spread myself too thin. No way. They actually have a Broncos memorial sign. I find that it's fascinating that it's still up in the arena. It's been seven years later, and it's nice to see, honestly. I think for me, being able to memorialize something to help keep it alive in other people's lives really does make a positive impact on the families who have lost loved ones in particular, because they're the ones who grieve and have that loss. And I'll have to talk to the person who has it up there, the owner, or whatever, and say thank you, because it means a lot. Those little things do change and mean a lot. So.
Tell me about some of the other volunteerism you've done with diabetes nonprofits and organizations.
So it stemmed back. First type of thing I've done with diabetes was in 2014-15. And that was with Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. And I became a provincial ambassador in Saskatchewan at that time. Then I moved, honestly, that came from one of my good buddies, Connor McLean, who was also a type 1 diabetic, who I played with in Notre Dame. And he was the one that's like, you gotta get involved, like, let's get you involved. So it kind of got like pulled in, which was awesome. And then after that, I like a national ambassador for Diabetes Canada, national ambassador with Breakthrough Diabetes as well. I Challenge Diabetes. I have done events for them. I've helped them out with certain things too. And also with York University Student Diabetes Club I was with as well. There's Omnipod. I was actually in Amsterdam not too long ago for their International Diabetes Technology Conference as well.
How was that? Yeah.
Super cool. It's like the tech world is insane with diabetes. Like the last 10 years, even like the last 10 years has been monumental, like truly game changing. And it's only going to speed up. And like they're looking at right now, there's like artificial pancreases, like yes, supposedly cures for type 1 diabetes where they do stem cell implantation. And like these are crazy technologies coming out that I find is super fascinating and exciting for especially people that live with type 1 diabetes, even just diabetes in general. And like artificial pumps that act like pancreases, and like I have one on right now. It's like I don't even need to worry about my diabetes because my pump and my continuous glucose monitoring system are talking to each other right now. So like I think that's pretty cool too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Who's your favorite Canadian artist that's on your playlist?
Ooh. You know, the classic one would be like Drake.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber, but I'm going Shania Twain.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I was huge. Like growing up, Shania Twain was my girl. I loved her music. My mom would always play her in the vehicle, and even my dad too. So Shania, I knew like we had the CDs and even like the mixtapes of Shania growing up, and that would be there. Nickelback's another one. The band itself, it's hard. There's so many amazing artists in Canada too.
Yeah.
Like The Weeknd, Shawn Mendes. Like I don't think we get enough credit for all the amazing talent that comes out of our country
100%.
and the influence that we have on the world that we don't even really realize or recognize.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks for doing this with me.
Thanks.
This is awesome. This is an amazing, it was an amazing interview. It was awesome to see you again. And as a small token of appreciation, my Be Bold shirt, I got you one of these.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I'm hoping that
awesome.
Whenever you wear it, you can remember to not only help others and, you know, be with the community, but be bold yourself and continue on that journey. And yeah, thanks again.
That's so sweet. Well, thank you so much for having me on here. It's an honor. I appreciate you doing what you're doing across Canada. And for me, the big thing is showcasing people who are normal people who do extraordinary things.
Yeah.
And I think that you're one of those people as well by even doing this project. So
Thank you.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this takes you.
Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you found Kaleb's story as inspirational and as bold as I did. If you liked the video, toss it a like, give it a comment. What was your favorite part about Kaleb's story? What was the most inspirational or bold part for you? Starting now, the next 150 people to subscribe to the YouTube channel will be entered to win one of 2 signed copies of Kaleb's #1 best-selling book, Crossroads. So hopefully you get one of these. It's even better than the 40 minutes that you just saw. Until next time, remember, don't just live, be bold. I'm trying to live that too.